German Shepherd refused to leave dying baby in his final moments. Then a miracle happened. The steady hum of machines filled the neonatal intensive care unit, a rhythm Clara Hayes had learned by heart. Each beep and soft were carried a piece of her son's fragile existence. 6-month-old Noah lay beneath the sterile glow of fluorescent lights, his tiny chest rising and falling with mechanical precision. Tubes and monitors surrounded him like a web, each one holding him to life by a thread. Clara sat in the same worn chair she had claimed for weeks, her back aching, her eyes red from sleepless nights. She reached through the clear crib window, brushing a trembling hand across Noah's soft cheek. His skin felt cool, almost weightless under her fingers. "Hey, my brave boy," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Mommy's right here. I'm not going anywhere." When the door opened, the familiar footsteps of Dr. Patel, the attending physician, approached. His expression was kind but heavy, the kind that spoke before words even formed. He pulled up a stool beside her and folded his hands. "Clara," he began softly, "we've tried everything. The infection isn't responding. His organs are starting to shut down." Her breath caught. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "There has to be something. Another medicine, another hospital, something." Dr. Patel's eyes lowered. "I wish there was. All we can do now is keep him comfortable." Clara's world went still. The words echoed through her like a hollow bell. Keep him comfortable. That meant give up. She swallowed the lump in her throat, refusing to let the tears fall. "He's still fighting," she said fiercely. "He always fights." As the doctor left, Clara's thoughts drifted to the only thing that ever calmed Noah, Shadow. The old German Shepherd had been Noah's therapy companion during early treatments, lying quietly beside his crib, tail thumping with every tiny laugh. Since the therapy program ended, Shadow had been banned from the ward. She wiped her eyes and stood, heart pounding with a fragile hope. She approached the administrator's office where Dr. Evelyn Sloan sat, immaculate in her pressed suit, signing papers. "Please," Clara said, voice trembling. "Just one visit. Shadow helped him before. Maybe he'll respond again." Dr. Sloan didn't even look up. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hayes. Therapy animals are no longer permitted in this ward." Clara's tears finally fell. "He's dying," she whispered. "All I'm asking for is goodbye." Dr. Sloan's pen didn't stop moving. Policy is policy. And with that, the door, and Clara's last fragile hope, quietly closed. The hospital at night felt like another world. Quiet, half-lit, and full of unspoken grief. Clara sat alone in the family lounge, staring at the vending machine's glow as if it held answers. Her hands shook around a cold paper cup of coffee that had long gone bitter. Every sound from the hallway, a distant monitor, a nurse's shoes, the sigh of an elevator, made her flinch. When the door opened softly behind her, it was Nurse Elena. She was young, with tired eyes but a warmth that no uniform could hide. She'd been on Noah's night shift since his first day in the NICU, and somehow she always knew when Clara was about to break. "You haven't gone home in 3 days," Elena said gently, setting a blanket over her shoulders. "You'll make yourself sick." Clara forced a hollow smile. "If I go home, I might miss something. I can't risk that." Elena hesitated, then lowered her voice. "I heard about Dr. Sloan denying your request." Clara's throat tightened. She said therapy dogs were a distraction. But Shadow isn't just a dog. His family. He's the only thing that ever made Noah smile. Elena nodded slowly. "I remember Shadow. The way Noah's vitals improved every time that dog was near. I'll never forget it." She paused, glancing toward the hallway before leaning closer. "You know, I still have Ryan Cole's number, Shadow's old handler. The hospital deleted the files when they ended the program, but I wrote it down." Clara's breath caught. You'd give it to me." "I didn't say that," Elena whispered with a faint smile. "But if I happen to leave my clipboard on the counter when I step out for coffee, and there just happened to be a sticky note on it with a number." Clara's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Elena. You don't know what this means. Be careful, the nurse warned softly. If Dr. Sloan finds out, she'll have both of us escorted out before morning. Clara waited until Elena disappeared into the hallway before snatching the small yellow note from the clipboard. The digits blurred as tears welled in her eyes. Ryan Cole, Shadow's handler. She stepped into the dim stairwell, phone trembling in her hand, and dialed. The voice on the other end was deep and calm, the kind that carried quiet authority. This is Ryan. Mr. Cole, she said quickly, my name is Clara Hayes. My son, Noah, is dying. Shadow used to visit him in therapy. He was the only thing that made him peaceful. I need your help. There was a pause. Then, softly, I remember Noah. And Shadow remembers him too. Clara's voice broke. They won't let him in. Please. Just one visit. Ryan sighed, and she could almost hear him weighing the risks. All right. If we do this, it has to be quiet, after rounds, when the night staff changes. I'll bring Shadow through the service entrance around 8:30 tomorrow night. No one can see us. I'll make sure they don't, Clara whispered. Thank you. You're saving us. When the call ended, she stood alone in the stairwell, heart pounding with equal parts fear and hope. Later, as she sat beside Noah's crib, she brushed her hand over his tiny fingers. You hold on, my love, she whispered. Shadow's coming tomorrow. He's coming just for you. The monitors continued their slow, steady rhythm. For the first time in weeks, Clara felt something stir inside her chest. Not despair, not grief, but determination. Tomorrow night, she would break every rule if it meant her son could feel peace one last time. The clock on the wall ticked toward 8:30 p.m., each second stretching thin with anticipation. The NICU lights had dimmed for the night, and the ward lay in a hush of sleeping machines and soft beeps. Clara sat beside Noah's crib, pretending to scroll through her phone while her heart pounded so loudly she was sure someone would hear it. A faint click came from the hallway door, the sound of the service entrance unlocking. Her breath caught. Moments later, Ryan Cole stepped inside, moving with the careful precision of a man who'd done this before. His graying beard caught the faint light, but it was the shape beside him that made Clara's eyes fill instantly. Shadow. The old German shepherd padded silently across the floor, his coat gleaming in the dim light, his amber eyes fixed on her. He stopped beside Noah's crib and pressed his nose to the plastic edge, letting out a soft whine. Clara covered her mouth, a sob breaking free. Hey, buddy, she whispered. You came back. Ryan knelt beside the crib, slipping the dog's vest off. Go ahead, he murmured. He remembers. Shadow stepped closer, his large head lowering beside Noah's fragile body. His warm breath fogged the clear barrier. The baby's tiny fingers twitched. Then, faintly, a sound, a small, weak whimper that broke through the hum of machines. Clara froze, then looked up at the monitor. The heart rate numbers, which had been low and sluggish for days, began to climb. Slow at first, then steady. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks. He knows, she whispered. He knows Shadow's here. Ryan's voice softened. I've seen it before. Some dogs don't just sense pain, they sense hope. For a few precious minutes, time seemed to stop. Shadow lay quietly beside the crib, his eyes half closed, tail brushing the floor in slow, comforting sweeps. Clara reached through the side panel and laid her hand on Noah's chest, feeling a stronger rhythm beneath her palm. It was the closest thing to peace she'd known in months. But then, Shadow's body went still. His ears pricked forward, and a low rumble started deep in his throat. He lifted his head, nose twitching, eyes alert. Shadow. Clara whispered. What is it? Ryan's posture changed immediately. He knew that sound. It wasn't fear, it was warning. The shepherd sniffed along the floor near the formula station in the corner, his tail stiff, muscles tense. He pawed at the ground, then moved to the oxygen lines running along the baseboards, whining softly as his nose traced their length. He's picking up something, Ryan said under his breath, crouching beside the dog. That's an alert posture. Clara's confusion turned to fear. An alert for what? Shadow began pacing, moving between the formula storage cart and the oxygen tubing, nose to the floor. His breathing deepened as he sniffed faster, more urgently, before pouring again at the same spot on the tiles. Ryan's eyes narrowed. He's trained to react to chemical changes, toxins, gas, contamination. He shouldn't be behaving like this in a clean ward. Clara's pulse raced. Are you saying something's leaking? That it's dangerous. I'm saying he smells something we can't, Ryan replied grimly. And he's never wrong. Shadow let out a sharp bark, startling them both. The sound echoed through the quiet hall, raw and urgent. He turned back toward Noah's crib, whining again, almost pleading. Clara's hands trembled. He's trying to protect him. Ryan's face hardened. He's warning us. Something in here isn't safe. The monitor above Noah flickered briefly, just a glitch, but it made Clara's stomach twist. The smell of disinfectant suddenly felt sharper, almost metallic. Ryan touched the dog's collar. Easy, boy. Show me. Shadow returned to the formula cart, nose pressed against one of the bags. His body stiffened, tail straight as a board, a full detection signal. Ryan looked up, his voice urgent now. Clara, that formula. Don't let them give him any more of it. There's something wrong with it. The sound of distant footsteps echoed down the corridor. Ryan stood quickly, whispering, "We have to go, now." Clara's heart pounded as she glanced between the door and her child. But I'll come back tomorrow, Ryan promised. We'll figure this out. But I'm telling you, that dog just saved your baby's life. As they slipped out the side door, Shadow glanced back one last time. Eyes glowing in the dim light, ears forward, as if making sure Noah was still breathing. And for the first time, Clara understood. Shadow hadn't just come to say goodbye. He'd come to warn them. The next morning brought no rest, only a strange heaviness that hung over the ward. Clara hadn't slept. She'd sat awake in the hospital chair all night, her mind replaying every second of Shadow's strange behavior. The pacing, the growling, the way he'd fixated on the formula and the oxygen lines. When Nurse Elena came in for her shift, Clara tried to sound calm, but her voice shook. Something's wrong in here. Shadow, he was warning us about the formula. About something leaking. Elena's brow furrowed. Clara, please, keep your voice down. If Dr. Sloan hears you talking like that, she'll. Too late. The glass doors swung open with a sharp crack. Dr. Evelyn Sloan strode in, her heels striking the floor like gunshots. Her clipboard clutched tight, her face carved into icy precision. Mrs. Hayes, she said, tone already loaded with disapproval. I've just reviewed last night's security footage. Would you care to explain why a dog was brought into a sterile ward at 2 in the morning? Clara's heart lurched. Please, listen to me. You broke protocol, Sloan interrupted, voice rising. You endangered every child in this unit. This is grounds for removal from hospital premises. Before Clara could answer, the side door opened again. Ryan Cole stepped inside, shoulders squared, Shadow at his side. The German shepherd's tail hung low, his amber eyes alert but calm. Dr. Sloan, Ryan said evenly, I'm the one who brought him in. I'm a retired firefighter and certified K9 handler. Shadow is trained in chemical detection and environmental safety. What he found last night may be serious. Sloan blinked, momentarily thrown off by his composure. Chemical detection. Ryan nodded. He's dual-trained, for therapy and hazard identification. He's saved lives before, detecting gas leaks and toxins invisible to the human nose. Last night, he gave multiple alerts in this room, by the formula cart, near the oxygen lines, and that vent. Sloane's lips pressed into a thin line. Are you seriously suggesting that my hospital, a state-regulated facility, is harboring toxins because a dog said so? Ryan's voice stayed calm. I'm suggesting you let me run a quick test. I brought portable sensors, nothing invasive. If I'm wrong, you can write me up for trespassing. But if I'm right. She cut him off, eyes flashing. This is hysteria. You are not authorized to conduct tests here. And you, she turned on Clara. You manipulated staff to break policy. Do you realize what could happen if the administration finds out? Maybe they should find out. Clara's voice cracked through the tension. You're worried about rules while my son is dying. That dog was trying to save him. Sloane slammed her clipboard onto the counter. Enough. The sudden force startled everyone, and at that exact moment, one of the monitors beeped erratically. The heart rate number on the screen spiked, then dipped sharply. Clara turned instantly to Noah's crib. What's happening? Nurse Elena rushed forward. His oxygen's dropping. Stand by. She adjusted the flow regulator, her movements quick and focused. The lights flickered once. Then again. Everyone froze. A faint buzzing hum filled the air, an unnatural sound that made the hair on the back of Ryan's neck rise. Shadow stiffened. His ears pricked, body low, hackles raised. Then he barked, one sharp, warning sound that echoed through the sterile room. Get that animal out of here. Dr. Sloane snapped, her voice shrill now. But Shadow didn't move. He turned toward the vent on the far wall, nose working rapidly. His growls deepened, rumbling like distant thunder. Ryan's eyes followed him. He's picking up fumes, he said quickly. There's something in that vent. Maybe a gas leak or chemical residue. Sloane scoffed. Nonsense. We have sensors for that. Ryan stepped closer to the vent. Your sensors don't catch everything. Shadow's never been wrong. You need to evacuate this room, now. This is outrageous. Sloane snapped. You're causing panic over a dog's. Her words were cut short by the piercing alarm of Noah's monitor. The screen flashed red, warning of rapid oxygen fluctuation. Elena's eyes widened. His saturation's plummeting. He's not getting clean air. Clara's heart stopped. She moved instinctively to her son's side. Noah, please. Ryan turned to Sloane, his voice hard. You're out of time for pride, doctor. Move your patients out, now. Sloane hesitated, her authority cracking under the weight of the chaos. Shadow barked again, louder, pushing toward the vent. Then he reared up, scratching at it, desperate. His nails clinked against the metal grill, his body vibrating with urgency. Clara's voice trembled, tears streaking down her cheeks. He's warning us. Why won't you listen? For one frozen second, the entire room hung between belief and denial. Then another flicker, darker this time, and a faint acrid smell crept through the air, metallic and sharp. Dr. Sloane's face paled. Ryan grabbed the emergency switch on the wall. Everyone out, he barked. Now! Elena lifted Noah's portable monitor as alarms erupted across the ward. The red emergency lights bathed the room in a pulsing glow, and the old German shepherd stood firm at the vent, growling into the shadows, the silent hero no one wanted to believe. And as they rushed into the hallway, Clara looked back one last time. Smoke was seeping through the cracks of the vent, faint but real. Shadow had been right. Again. Morning sunlight poured through the wide hospital windows, soft and deceiving. To anyone passing by, the day looked perfect, the air calm, the corridors freshly polished, the scent of flowers drifting from the lobby where banners hung, celebrating innovation in pediatric care. The hospital was hosting a media event. Reporters and donors were already gathering, their cameras glinting beneath fluorescent lights. The administration wanted to reassure the world after last night's minor technical glitch. For Clara Hayes, that phrase burned. Her son's monitor had failed, oxygen levels had dropped, and only Shadow's warning had prevented something unthinkable. But Dr. Sloane had downplayed everything. A small electrical flicker, she'd called it. Harmless. Clara stood near the NICU entrance, clutching her phone like a lifeline. She hadn't been allowed to keep Shadow inside overnight, but Ryan had returned early, the shepherd by his side, sitting quietly in the corner as if waiting for orders. Across the hall, Dr. Sloane was giving a polished interview. Our hospital prides itself on the highest safety standards, she said smoothly. Our staff is dedicated to care, precision, and transparency. Ryan, listening from a distance, muttered, "Transparency, hair." Shadow's ears twitched. His gaze fixed on something unseen, the upper corner of the corridor near the ceiling. A faint vibration rippled through his body. Then, slowly, he stood. Clara felt her heart skip. "Ryan," she whispered. "He's doing it again." The retired handler watched the dog's movements carefully. The shepherd's nose lifted, sniffing the air in short, sharp bursts. He started pacing in tight circles, his tail low, steps tense. "Something's off," Ryan said under his breath. Clara frowned. "It's the same way he acted last night." Before she could finish, a faint pop echoed overhead, followed by a flicker of the lights. It was brief, most people didn't even notice, but Shadow barked sharply, the sound echoing down the corridor. Heads turned. Dr. Sloane's perfect smile faltered for half a second before she forced it back. "Please remove that dog," she said through clenched teeth. Ryan ignored her. He crouched beside the shepherd. "Where, boy? Show me." Shadow moved toward the NICU door, barking again, more urgently this time. Nurses turned, startled. One of the overhead lights buzzed and flickered again, this time longer. A faint crackling noise followed, low but unmistakable. Ryan's instincts kicked in instantly. "Everyone back away from the main corridor. Now!" Dr. Sloane's brow furrowed. "Mr. Cole, please. You're alarming the guests." The next sound cut her off, a sharp snap, then a puff of gray smoke rising from behind the banner display. "Fire!" a nurse shouted. Chaos erupted. Someone triggered the alarm, and the shrill wail filled the air. Nurses ran toward the NICU. Clara sprinted to Noah's crib, pulling the mobile oxygen unit toward her as alarms blared. "I've got you, baby," she whispered, unhooking the cables with trembling hands. Ryan grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall, pulling the pin. "Sloane, get your staff out, now." Dr. Sloane froze, her carefully composed mask cracking into panic. Reporters stumbled back, cameras still rolling. The smell of burning plastic thickened fast. Smoke began to pour through the ceiling vent, curling along the corridor. Shadow lunged forward, barking fiercely, guiding Ryan toward the source, an overloaded power junction behind the banner display. Sparks leapt from the socket, licking at the wall. Ryan doused it with the extinguisher, white mist filling the air. "It's electrical," he shouted. "Shut off the main breaker." But the switchboard was 2 floors down, and no one moved fast enough. The sprinklers failed to activate immediately, a few sputtering uselessly before dying out. Clara clutched Noah tight against her chest, coughing as smoke rolled through the hall. She held her phone up, recording the scene, the malfunctioning alarms, the delay in response, the terrified nurses improvising an evacuation while administrators froze. "Keep filming," Ryan coughed, eyes burning. "People need to see this." Shadow barked again, turning toward a side hallway. A nurse was struggling to push an incubator cart with 2 premature infants. The wheels caught on a cord. Shadow sprinted forward, teeth catching the end of the blanket hanging from the cart, pulling it free. The cart rolled again, just in time to clear the spreading smoke. The dog barked until she followed Ryan's voice toward the exit. "Good boy," Ryan shouted, barely audible through the chaos. By the time emergency crews arrived, the first corridor was choked in gray haze. Firefighters took over, cutting power, sealing off the damaged section. The smell of burnt insulation clung to the air like guilt. Outside, under the gray morning sky, Clara stood wrapped in a hospital blanket. She held Noah against her chest while her phone kept recording. The scene around her was chaos. Patients on gurneys, staff coughing, administrators arguing, cameras flashing. Shadow sat beside her, panting hard, his fur streaked with soot but his eyes sharp and steady. Dr. Sloane stumbled out, face streaked with ash. The reporters surrounded her instantly, microphones flashing. "Doctor, is it true the fire alarms failed to activate?" one shouted. "Why wasn't the NICU evacuated sooner?" Sloane stammered something about unexpected malfunctions, but her words vanished under the noise. Clara lifted her phone. "This," she whispered to Ryan, "is what they tried to hide. This is what he warned us about." Ryan nodded grimly. "And now the whole world will see." The camera lens caught the final image before the fire trucks blocked the view. An exhausted woman holding her baby, a soot-streaked dog sitting protectively by her side, and behind them, the gleaming hospital logo collapsing into smoke. For the first time in months, Clara didn't feel helpless. She felt something new, the beginning of justice. By evening, the fire was out, but the real damage was only beginning. Clara sat in a small conference room, her arms wrapped protectively around Noah, who was finally sleeping against her chest. Outside the glass wall, hospital officials and uniformed men moved like shadows, whispering, pointing. The once praised mother and her loyal dog were no longer heroes. They were suspects. Ryan paced near the door, jaw tight. "They're building a case against us," he muttered. "I can see it in their faces." Moments later, the door opened. Dr. Evelyn Sloan stepped in, her expression composed again, as if the chaos of the morning had been a bad dream. Behind her were two administrators, a legal representative, and a woman carrying a notepad. "Mrs. Hayes," Sloan began coldly, "we need to discuss your actions today." Clara blinked. "My actions? You mean saving children while your alarms failed?" Sloan ignored the jab. "Your unauthorized guest caused disruption during a critical event. Security footage clearly shows you and Mr. Cole allowing a dog into a sterile ward, leading to unnecessary panic and chaos during a minor technical malfunction." Ryan's voice cut like gravel. "That minor malfunction nearly killed half your NICU." The lawyer interjected smoothly. "Mr. Cole, your presence here was unauthorized. Bringing an animal into the facility, interfering with staff, and creating media exposure all constitute serious violations. The hospital will be filing charges for trespassing and endangerment." Clara's breath caught. "You're blaming us? You're the ones who ignored his warning." Sloane's eyes hardened. "Mrs. Hayes, I understand you're emotional, but your behavior has been erratic for weeks. Your constant interference with staff has raised serious concerns. In fact," she glanced at the woman with the notepad, "Child Protective Services has been notified. They're reviewing whether your son is safe under your care." The words struck like ice water. You called CPS." Clara's voice broke. "Because I tried to protect him." Ryan took a step forward. "That's enough. You can't weaponize the system to hide your negligence." Sloan turned sharply. "Watch your tone, Mr. Cole. You're a civilian on private property." The CPS officer, young, nervous, looked at Clara with sympathy. This is just procedure. We need to assess if your actions today put your child at risk." Tears welled in Clara's eyes. "Everything I did was to save him." But the words fell into the sterile silence like stones. Just then, the door cracked open. A man in maintenance overalls peeked in, hesitating. His name tag read J. Morales. His eyes darted nervously toward Sloan, then to Clara. He said quietly, "I think you should see this." He slid a flash drive across the table before anyone could stop him. "You didn't hear it from me." Then he slipped away. Ryan grabbed the drive and plugged it into the conference laptop. Within seconds, files appeared, maintenance reports, months' worth. Electrical issues. Ventilation warnings. And then, buried deeper, internal memos. Chemical storage irregularities. Formula contamination flagged. Report suppressed pending administrative review, Drive E. Sloan. Clara's breath hitched. "You knew." Sloane's composure cracked for the first time. "Those reports were preliminary." "Preliminary?" Ryan's voice thundered. "You buried warnings that could have killed infants." The CPS officer's face turned pale. "Is this true, doctor?" Before Sloan could answer, Nurse Elena burst into the room, holding a lab report. "Clara, you were right. I ran a sample from the formula batch Shadow reacted to. It tested positive for ethylene glycol. It's toxic." The room fell silent. Sloane's lips parted, but no sound came out. The lawyer reached for the report, but Elena pulled it back. Copies are already with the lab and the health department. Ryan exhaled sharply. And I just sent everything from that flash drive to 3 news outlets. Outside, the hallway erupted. Journalists shouting, cameras flashing. Someone had leaked the story. Headlines were already spreading across social media. Hero dog exposes hospital cover-up. Infant safety scandal rocks St. Augustine Medical. Clara held Noah closer, whispering into his soft hair. You're safe, baby. Shadow saved you. And now everyone will know the truth. Ryan looked toward the window where flashing cameras reflected off the glass. They can't bury it this time, he said quietly. Not with the world watching. And in that moment, for the first time since the ordeal began, Dr. Sloane's confident mask slipped, revealing fear. By morning, the hospital that once stood as a symbol of progress was under siege. Not by fire this time, but by truth. Clara's video, shaky and tear-streaked, had spread across the internet like wildfire. It showed the alarms failing, the smoke rolling through the halls, the terrified nurses improvising evacuations while Dr. Sloane stood frozen in disbelief. And right in the center of it all, Shadow, barking and guiding people to safety, his fur streaked with ash, his eyes bright with determination. The caption beneath the first upload read, "This dog saved my baby when no one else would." By sunrise, millions had watched it. News anchors replayed the footage on repeat. Headlines screamed across every channel, "Hero dog exposes hospital corruption." "Whistleblower mom versus medical powerhouse." "Cover-up crumbles after viral video." Public outrage followed like a storm. Parents, nurses, and former patients flooded comment sections and city squares, demanding accountability. Within 48 hours, the Department of Health announced a full investigation into St. Augustine Medical Center and its executive leadership. Ryan watched the news from his small kitchen, a cup of black coffee trembling in his hand. On the screen, Dr. Evelyn Sloane stood outside the hospital, surrounded by reporters, her once impeccable posture collapsing under pressure. "The allegations are exaggerated," she insisted, voice quivering. The situation was contained. But then a journalist held up the lab report Nurse Elena had leaked. "Doctor, can you explain the confirmed presence of toxic chemicals in the infant formula your hospital approved?" The color drained from Sloane's face. The interview ended there. 2 days later, she was placed on indefinite suspension. The hospital's board issued a statement acknowledging systemic failures in leadership and safety oversight. The foundation that produced the contaminated formula quietly shut down the line pending criminal review. For Clara, it all felt surreal. She hadn't fought for revenge, only for truth, but now the world had taken up her cause. The same hospital that once silenced her now invited her back to speak before the board. She sat across from new administrators and state officials, her hands steady for the first time in months. "Families need to be heard," she told them. "You can't treat parents like problems when they're the reason you're here. We deserve a voice in every decision that touches our children's lives." There was a long pause before the chairman nodded. "We agree, Mrs. Hayes. We'd like to offer you a position on the hospital's new family advisory board. Your experience can guide us to do better." Tears filled her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Outside the hospital doors, Shadow waited with Ryan. Cameras flashed as children ran up to pet the now famous shepherd. A news crew handed Ryan a microphone, asking how it felt to see Shadow hailed as a hero. He smiled, resting a hand on the dog's head. "He's always been one. The world just finally saw it." The city held a small ceremony a week later. In front of the hospital, a bronze plaque was unveiled, in honor of Shadow, the therapy dog who saved lives. Clara stood in the crowd, Noah cradled in her arms, clapping through tears. Months passed. The hospital's walls were freshly painted, new leadership installed, and safety systems rebuilt from the ground up. Nurse Elena was promoted. Ryan started consulting for patient safety training. And Clara, once just a frightened mother, became an advocate, helping other families find their voice. One quiet evening, She sat by the window of her small apartment. The city lights shimmered outside as Noah babbled softly from his crib. Shadow lay curled at his feet, snoring gently, his paws twitching as if still chasing invisible danger away. Clara leaned closer, brushing a hand over Noah's blanket. "You're safe now, my love," she whispered, "because he never stopped watching over you." Noah stirred, his tiny hand falling onto Shadow's fur. The shepherd's tail thumped once against the floor, a tired, content rhythm of peace. For the first time in forever, the night felt calm. No alarms, no fear, just the steady sound of breathing, one human, one loyal heart, finally at rest. If this story touched your heart, share it. Somewhere tonight, another mother is fighting for her child, another voice is being ignored, and another loyal heart like Shadow is waiting to be heard. Let this story remind the world that compassion saves lives. Not rules, not pride, but kindness. Click subscribe and help us keep telling stories that make people feel, remember, and believe again.